Hey everybody, Steve here with Harry S. Truman, on his statue anyway, here at the entrance of his presidential library. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, and I'm here to visit his final resting place, to visit his gravesite, which is in the courtyard just through this building here. This is the museum and library, and you walk through and there's a beautiful courtyard. I stayed here in Kansas City last night, and I'm headed over to Eisenhower's final resting place in Abilene, Kansas next, but I wanted to stop here this morning for one more visit with Harry S. Truman. I just discovered that the home is not open for tours today. It's closed. This is Monday. I think it's closed on Monday, maybe even Tuesday. That's been one of the problems I've had visiting the presidential grave sites and their homes and libraries, is that they have very different hours. I mean, most of them are closed 1, 2, sometimes 3 days a week, and they're all different days. None of them, it's not like they're all closed on Saturdays and Sundays or something, or Tuesdays and Wednesdays. They're all closed on different days. So if you're trying to visit on a particular road trip, it's not real easy. So just be aware that allow some extra days for your road trip, because you probably will end up waiting in some of the cities for their libraries or grave sites or home tours to open. Now, where the statue is here, you might notice there are a bunch of bricks here with names and messages, some really fun messages. And I don't know exactly what the money was raised for. Maybe it was raised to pay for the statue. I'll have to ask Kurt, because Kurt Dion, who I've mentioned a couple of times on this presidential road trip, says Kurt Dion's 36th POTUS, August 13th, 2009. So this was the 36th president that he visited on his trip to visit all of the presidential grave sites, which he's done. I just thought I would show you some of these messages because they're kind of interesting and nice. I don't remember going anywhere fun like this when I was a kid on field trips. I mean, we did take some field trips, but never went to a presidential gravesite. Well, then again, in California, we didn't have any at that time. The two presidents who are laid to rest in California now were still very much alive back then.
In 1945, Harry S. Truman was Franklin Delano Roosevelt's vice president when Roosevelt died in office. Truman became president in 1945 and served 2 terms until leaving office in 1953, the same year I was born. In the 1950s, children in the United States were taught that truth and honesty was one of the most important things in life. Truman was even famous for saying, "The truth is all I want for history." Sadly, today in 2024, children are being taught just the opposite, that if you can become a good enough liar, you might even be able to become president one day. Truman was a Democrat and died here in Kansas City, Missouri, the day after Christmas in 1972. Truman was a very popular president, but also a very controversial president. In August of 1945, he ordered 2 atomic bombs to be dropped on Japan in an effort to bring an ending to World War II and to spare even more lives. This was just one of the many difficult and controversial decisions he had to make as president. In a recent 2024 survey, presidential experts and historians, made up of both Republicans and Democrats, ranked the best and worst U.S. presidents, and Truman came in number 6 after Lincoln, FDR, Washington, Theodore Roosevelt, and Jefferson. Like the other great presidents, the decisions he made so long ago are still having an impact on our daily lives today. One of his best-known quotes was "the buck stops here," meaning he took full responsibility for his decisions and his actions. Back when I was growing up, voters used to admire presidents like that. Unfortunately, voters no longer care about presidents having dignity or integrity or honesty, so it's very unlikely that someone like Truman could ever become president today. Truman symbolizes these very fundamental American values that made America the envy of the world and one of the greatest countries in the world. Tragically, our American values of compassion and goodness and decency and patriotism, the very values that made our country so great in the first place and made us so different from all of the other countries of the world, are now being rejected by most American voters in favor of the opposite values. As an old baby boomer, it's very heartbreaking to see, but I'm grateful that at least for most of my life, I grew up and lived in America when voters still admired the values of presidents like Harry S. Truman. This week I want to give a big thank you to my newest channel supporters, Rick H., Cliff Sheffield, 1010 Hickey, Parker Odell, and Don Moraz. Thank you all so much for your very kind and generous donations to my channel using YouTube Super Thanks and Patreon.
As always, thanks for joining me on another historic road trip to the past. Until our next trip to the cemetery together, thanks for sharing the memories, everybody.